which began barking at about 3:30 in the morning. So Justin Leto, trial attorney, Miami, when you hear all of that, the first thing you say is, not likely it was a stranger abduction, because somebody in the home would have heard something, especially given that little Ayla reportedly slept with a cousin who was only slightly younger.
Yeah, I agree with what you've been saying all along, Jane. It doesn't make any sense that somebody would have broken into this house. There's too many coincidences here, with the mother filing for custody and all of a sudden the child disappearing, missing all these doctor's appointments. You know, the police have got to focus on the parents here. And it's really sad because, you know, this is a young girl, and if the parents are having problems, I don't know what the father may or may not have done to this child, but this is an innocent little girl, and now she's missing. And I think all eyes point directly at the father, because what else could there possibly be? The police have got to look squarely at him because of all the issues surrounding this little girl's disappearance. Yeah, well, Ayla's arm, Exhibit A, was in a sling on the day she disappeared. Her mom says every time Ayla was with her father, she'd come home with bruises, pulled muscle. Here's exactly what she told Nancy Grace about what caused her daughter's broken arm. Listen to this.
He was holding Ayla, and they fell up like 2 or 3 little steps, and he fell on top of her, and her arm was broken. And he waited over almost 24 hours to bring her to the emergency room. I want to know reasons to why do you wait almost 24 hours to bring a child who he himself told me she screamed bloody murder when they fell.
Well, first of all, I want to say that the father, who is not being called the suspect at all by police, is welcome on this show anytime, or his attorney, or anybody who wants to speak for him, or all of them. We want to be fair here, and we did reach out but have not heard back. But I have to say that this is the claim of the mother, Mike Brooks, but if so, it's very disturbing. A father allegedly waiting 24 hours to take his daughter to the hospital when she's got a broken arm?
And, you know, doctors, on examining the arm, on x-raying the arm, Jane, they would be able to tell if there was some amount of time that was that had passed before this arm was set, if it was, depending on what kind of break it was. But one of the other things that bothers me that Trista Reynolds was talking about, Jane, I don't, you know, as an investigator, I don't believe in coincidences. She's talking about these text messages from him to her, saying she was paranoid that somebody was going to take little Ayla. I'm not buying that. Is that as a coincidence? Was he setting something up? Was he getting all these things in motion? And now the little girl goes missing?
Well, I have to say I find it extraordinary that, given the child's injuries, no matter how they occurred, that the Department of Health and Human Services would turn the child over to the father, given that those injuries occurred on his watch. I wonder why Child Services, when the mother went into rehab, took the child from the mother's sister and gave the child to the father without doing a lot of investigation into the relationship with the father and the child. So we're gonna discuss that on the other side of the break. This is a very troubling case. Where is little baby Ayla? We want to find out. And choked up, and you want to find out where your niece is, and it's completely understandable. Justin Leto, trial attorney out of Miami. Why would Children's Services, or whatever they call it in that particular state, Health and Human Services, why would the government department that is in charge of seeing that children are not harmed allow the father to take the child from the sister of the mother, because the mother is in rehab, and just go home with the child, given that, according to others, they're claiming every time this child is with the father, the child has some kind of physical problem?
Well, my question is this. It raises more questions than answers, Jane. If all these things are true, if the child had all these problems every time that she was with her father, I'm wondering if the mother reported this to the government agencies, because that's the only way they would know about it. And if she didn't report it, then how are we possibly going to know this is even going on? I mean, we're hearing about pulled muscles, broken arms, not reporting it for 24 hours. I understand that doctors would be able to tell if a broken bone has been there for a while, but unless they have reason to look for that, I don't see why they would be focusing on that. So I think we really have to start asking questions about who was reporting these problems and if they ever were reported.
Well, listen, Ronald, you're the mother of the child. went into rehab, okay, in October. So she has a substance abuse problem. Now she is reportedly sober. Did that come into play? Because I can see here that she was purportedly living in a hotel at the time that the child vanished. Why did she not have a permanent address? Why was she living in a hotel?
Rehab. A bunch of stuff happened at her old apartment. She had to move, and she's looking for a place now, but that's where she has to reside for right now until she finds a new apartment, is at a hotel.
Well, Mike Brooks, I think if a mother has a substance abuse problem and puts herself into rehab for treatment, she shouldn't be punished by having her child taken away as a result. I know he's the biological father, therefore he has rights, but I would think that if the child was doing well with the sister, that there would have been a way for her, even if she was in rehab, to fight that legally.
Well, you would think so, but the state is always going to try to put the child with one of the natural parents. And in this case, the father. And, you know, if there was no reports, if there were, just like Mr. Leto said, if there was no reports, then they're going to give it to him. Was there any complaints about him before? If there wasn't, they would look into that before they turned the baby over to him. But there again, you know, if somebody breaks in your car and you don't call the police, then as far as the police are concerned, that didn't happen.
Well, Ronald, you're the child's uncle. Do you know whether the mother called cops or called Children's Services when she claims the child would come home from staying with her dad with injuries? For example, this broken arm, or as you claimed, a black eye?
To tell you the truth, I don't know. I don't know what my sister did and when all that happened. I really don't know. To tell you the truth,
Wow.
I have no idea.
Well, I have to say, Justin Leto, all of these horrific cases are cautionary tales. And if you're in a similar situation and you're watching at home, that you have a contentious relationship with the father of your child, and you think that something's off when the child comes home from visitation with the dad, you have to call Children's Services and report it. You have to say, my child came home and she had a bruise on her arm or she had a black eye. Justin.
Yeah, absolutely, because you know, like you were saying earlier, if you don't report it, how is anybody going to ever know to look out for problems? And you know, when you're looking at the broad picture of this case, I know we're focusing on the father because that's where the child was, but we have to look at both parents still. What about all this noise and this ruckus that was going on outside the house? If the father was trying to do something to have this child disappear from within his own home, I don't see why there would be any ruckus or any noise. I still think you have to look at everybody and all the possibilities to try to find this child.
Absolutely. This father is not a suspect, okay? We're just exploring possibilities because we want to find this missing child. Coming up.